Hey guys, it's Mary from Justin and Mary. Now, last week we hosted thousands of photographers in our free online class, 5 Fast Fixes to Light Even the Toughest Situations. And we did 6 different showings of that. We had amazing groups at each one. We had a ton of incredible questions. We sent out the replay over the weekend. We did 48 hours of the replay, but we know life gets really busy. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to hop on today and give you just one of the best tips from that training, so at least you can get that. And also tell you a little bit more about our J&M lighting course that is now open for enrollment but closes again in just 2 days. And so first let's start with that tip that I'm talking about. This is one that class after class from the 6 different showings, people were just saying, okay, that just totally changed my lighting just in and of itself. And it's something that we call the black box. It's something that's very creatively named, as is most of the things that Justin and I teach, the J&M lighting course, very creatively named. But we call it the black box for one very simple reason, and it's that it's a combination of settings such that when we take a photo and we hit play and we look at the back of our screen, what it gives us is, instead of seeing what we're actually seeing, it's going to give us something more akin to a black box, the LCD screen in those 4 corners of the frame. We're not going to be seeing anything. Now you might be asking yourself, that sounds great and all, Mary, but why would I ever want to do that, right? Why would I want to ever take an image that's so underexposed that I'm not actually seeing anything that's happening? And the answer is those situations where you find yourself walking into a room with terrible, horrible, no good light. When you walk into a room and you have tungsten overhead and fluorescent sconces, daylight pouring through the window, blue stained glass, orange ceilings, purple carpet, and you think to yourself, wow, this is the most horrible, terrible, no good light I've ever been in. I wish I could just flip a switch and make it go away. But you feel all of those times you walked into those rooms and you feel like, I just have to struggle with the light I've been given. Maybe I'll just focus on getting a good exposure. I'm going to focus on the quantity of light, but what can I possibly do about the quality of light when it's just this bad? Maybe you've thought to yourself, I wish there was just some switch on the wall I could flip and turn all of this off. But so many times as photographers, whether you're a wedding photographer or a portrait photographer, you find yourself in those situations where the light is just not good and you can't do anything to actually change the circumstances themselves. You start turning off lights and mom gets upset or the makeup artist gets upset, and you're sort of stuck with what you're given. And for any time in the past that has been a total stressful situation for you, you can already think of those images you got that just weren't good because of the lighting you were in. And you think to yourself, why weren't they in a better room with better light, with a big window? For all of those times, right now, the black box let this wash over you in waves. From now on, there might not be a switch on the wall that you can flip, but there is a switch in your camera that you can flip, that you can say to your camera, dear camera, this light is horrible, terrible, and no good. Don't look at it anymore. Close your eyes, right? Don't see what I'm seeing. And so when we say the black box and we say the 4 corners of your LCD screen are black, what that essentially says is, even though you can look around the room with your eyes open and see all of that horrible, awful light is still there, to your camera, it's as if it does not exist at all anymore. It's not going to be affecting the image that you create anymore at all, and the proof is in that black box. So you're probably thinking, amazing, I want to flip a switch in my camera where it doesn't see bad light anymore. Tell me how to do it. So the black box is this combination of settings from your ISO, your shutter speed, your aperture, right? This is photography 101. It's your exposure triangle. And when we're getting something like the black box, what we're looking to do is get about 5 to 6 stops underexposed from what the proper manual setting would be in that room, right? So if you were going to walk into the room and the only thing you could focus on is the quantity of light, and you're just going to focus on getting a good exposure, even if the quality is still bad in terms of the light, get that setting first, and now we're going to really start dialing that down, 5 or 6 stops underexposed until 5 to 6 stops of the ambient light are gone, which means they're no longer going to be affecting our image once we turn our flash on. So let's walk through this together. Let's just say the settings in the room for a proper exposure were ISO 1600. Go ahead and grab your camera if you don't have it with you. You can press pause, I'll wait. Grab your camera, grab a flash, we're gonna walk through this together. You're gonna see just how powerful this black box is. Once you have that camera and you've come back, we're gonna dial in these settings. ISO 1600, aperture wide open, as wide as it'll go. Let's say 1.4 or whatever lens you have, as wide open as it'll go. Grab your lens that's gonna go the most wide open so you can really see this at work. And then we're gonna go a shutter speed of 1/125th, so 1/125 as our setting. And now what I want you to do is in the room that you're in, to really kind of see this play out, go ahead and turn on those tungsten lights, really see just how bad this light is gonna look, right? So we're gonna take this photo, and depending on the room that you're in, it's probably gonna be overexposed. It might not be if you're doing this more in the evening and it's dark, or you go into a dark room, which is what we sort of recommend. But right now, spoiler alert, this combination of settings is supposed to look bad. It's supposed to be showing you just how much those tungsten lights, those fluorescent lights, the worst lights you have available to you, turn them on so you can really see just how bad the quality of light would be in this room. And now we're going to do the work of cutting it out. And so when we decide we want to cut out the ambient, the first one we're going to go to is going to be the one that affects our ambient light only, right? We don't want to do the other two, which affect our ambient light, but then also are going to make our flash work that much harder because it affects both, unless we have to. And in that case, we're only going to do as much as we have to get the black box, and then no more. So let's say of those three, the one that's going to affect our ambient light only, which one of those three is it going to be? Shutter speed, ISO, or aperture? The answer is shutter speed. Here's why. ISO says to your camera, your chips, talking to the sensor, the settings talking to the sensor, hey camera, be more or less sensitive to light. It's not like it's distinguishing between natural light found in the room and the artificial light you're going to be adding in with your flash, right? It's kind of like me. I'm super pale and I get sunburned no matter what I do, whether that's from natural light from the sun or if I were to lay in a tanning bed. In either case, I'm more sensitive to light. Aperture is going to be that opening in the lens that light is pouring through. It's not like there's a stopping guard at the end being like, I'm sorry, flash, you're going to have to wait. Only ambient can pour through. Shutter speed is the only one that if we were to do a super long shutter speed, let's say 2 seconds where the shutter opens, shutter closes, even though the shutter speed is open, the shutter is open, the shutter speed is that long, and the entire time the ambient light in the room is just pouring in, pouring in, pouring in, your flash duration does not change, right? Your flash will still only always ever be. And so in the meantime, while it stays open, the flash pops and then it's done. It's not like it keeps popping. And so the only thing that's pouring in, the only thing that's changing is your ambient light. And so if we're going to choose between those three, ISO, shutter speed, and aperture, and we're trying to cut out ambient only, the first one we're going to go to is the one that affects ambient light only, or in our case, as I've just explained, shutter speed. And so you might be thinking to yourself, fantastic, I'll just go to 1/8000th shutter speed and be done with it. And you would in a perfect world, but the only problem with that is that we have to prepare our camera to be able to sync with our flash. And the reason when we start to run into trouble above a certain shutter speed with syncing with the flash is something Justin and I call the black bar of death. Now, the black bar of death, not to be confused with the black box good, black bar of death bad. The word death in the title helps give it away. But if you've ever been photographing with flash and you see that dark black bar across the bottom of all your images and it's driving you crazy, that is the black bar of death. And it happens because we all have what's called a focal plane shutter, which means the first curtain opens and then the second curtain closes. Well, up to something like 1/200th of a shutter speed or 1/250th, depending on the camera you're shooting with, what happens is that the first curtain entirely opens before the second curtain follows. And so you have an entirely open exposed frame. Faster than that, though, at say something like 1/500th of a shutter speed, what happens is that the first curtain starts moving and then the second curtain follows because they're moving so quickly. And so what happens when the flash fires then is that there's only a very narrow window of the frame that's actually open, depending on how fast your shutter is. At something like 1/1000th or 1/2000th, they become much closer together. But when that flash actually pops, only the part of the frame that's open is going to get exposed, and the bottom will be blocked by that second curtain, giving you the black bar of death. And so for most of us, we are going to be bound by an upper limit of something like 1/200th or 1/250th of a shutter speed. And so let's do that step first. So we're going to go from 1/125th to 1/200th, or in our case, our camera would allow us to do 1/250th shutter speed. So I would do all of that. I would go ahead and dial in my settings. I'm at, like I said, ISO 1600, 1/125th on my shutter speed, wide open at 1.8 for this lens. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to immediately go from 1/125th to 1/250th, which is an entire stop of light that I've cut out. But like I mentioned, we're going to need something more like 5 or 6 full stops to get that black box. And so now I have to choose between what's left, which is ISO or aperture. Well, Justin and I really love the aesthetic of a wide open aperture, so we're going to save that one till last. So the next one we're going to go to is going to be our ISO. Now you might be thinking to yourself, fantastic, so I'll bring my ISO all the way down to 100 or ISO low, really cut it out. Well, like I said, as you can kind of tell from my tone, that's probably not going to be the case, because we only want to go as far as we need to get a black box and no further, because any further and all we're going to be doing is making our flash work harder. Remember, at this point, ISO is going to affect both your ambient and your flash. So if I could get a black box at something like ISO 400, and I instead go to ISO 100, that's 2 more stops from 400 to 200, 200 to 100. That is not giving me any more of a black box because I've already achieved it, but now I'm going to have 2 entire stops more of power in my flash to compensate for it. So if you're ever finding yourself where your flash is overheating, your batteries are dying too quickly, your recycling times are slowing down, the first thing you want to check is, do you have your ISO too low for the goal that you're trying to achieve? So for right now, we've already cut out 1 stop of light in our shutter speed, 1/125th to 1/250th. Now stopping our way down through ISO, I'm going to go from ISO 1600 to ISO 800. And I'm going to go ahead and take that shot. Let's say I take a photo of this flower here that's on the island. I'm going to see that, yes, it's starting to underexpose it, but I still see a ton of light in this room. Now we have bright studio lights on me. We have daylight pouring in. We actually don't have any tungsten turned on in this room right now. But I can tell you from walking through this that that's not going to be enough, and now I'm going to go to the next step. So from ISO 800 to ISO 400, that's now 3 total stops of light, 1 from shutter speed and 2 now from ISO 1600 to 800, 800 to 400. When I take that shot, it's getting quite a bit darker, but still not there. So I'm going to go 400 to 200. I'm going to guess it's not going to still be there, but we'll take it just in case. 200 to ISO 100 or ISO low in your case. And now we're almost there, and then and only then would I move over to aperture and say, okay, let's go to from aperture 1.8 to 2.8 is actually going to be more than a stop. That should be pretty close. And so right there, I'm really starting to see that black box. You can see a tiny bit of detail just because we have very bright studio lights on my camera, but you can really start to see there's very, very little detail that you can actually identify. And so let's go through that one more time really quickly. We lost 1 stop in the shutter speed from 1/125th to 1/250th, and then 1600 to 800 on the ISO, to 400 to 200 to 100, and then I did 1 more stop, and a little bit more than a stop, like a stop and a third, stop and 2/3 in the aperture. And so now I have that black box. I take that pause, I breathe it in, I let it wash over me in waves, because it means nothing in this bad, horrible, terrible, no good light, mixed light room situation is affecting my image. It means I can unpack the window that I brought from home in the form of my flash. I can add that into the situation. When we have a flash on camera, I'm going to turn that 90 degrees to the side, 45 degrees up. I'm going to turn the flash on. That's an important step. I'm going to make sure it's on TTL and that I have a nice white surface to bounce off of. And then I'm going to take that image, and what we end up with is a beautifully lit, 1 color, 1 direction, 1 light source image coming in left to right, raking across the flowers. Because I'm shooting something like white flowers, it's going to, through metering, talking to TTL, say, whoa, this still looks really bright, so maybe you want to do something like, so it's going to give me a little less power in TTL. If that doesn't make sense, that's okay. Just know that I can do something like TTL plus a little bit, and I'm going to take that image, and now I end up with something that's a perfectly exposed image. It's got that 1 light source, that 1 direction, that 1 color coming from my flash. None of the other lights are affecting my image at all at this point. And it's all because I knew how to flip a switch in my camera, say, camera, this light is horrible, don't look. Flip that switch internally. Nobody in the room is any the wiser. I don't have to disrupt them by turning off switches. And now I unpack the window I brought from home, use that to light my image, and I have perfect, clean, beautiful light, no matter the situation I find myself in, because in every situation I walk into when I know my flash inside out, we bring the light. We bring the light. And so if you guys are really starting to see the power of the confidence and the certainty and the ability to show up and deliver for your clients no matter the situation, that knowing your flash can give you, the stressful situations that will be stressful no more because you have that ultimate in control and that ultimate in consistency. If you know that flash is one of those big gap points in your craft that's causing you to walk into your portrait shoots or your wedding days and not feel 100% confident, and that's affecting your confidence in your pricing, the confidence in the wedding venues you're going after, the confidence in the couples that you're booking, if that gap is missing, Justin and I can help. I promise you, you can. Our J&M lighting course has helped thousands of people at this point, and our teaching on lighting has helped thousands of people at this point totally change the way that they think about light forever. And not only that, not only is it changing the way they think about light and shining a spotlight on what matters and this moment stays, it's not only changing their confidence in the ability to walk into any situation and know they can rock it no matter what, it is also changing how they feel about what they can do and how they can show up for their clients. And it's getting them hours of their life back on the back end. When you find yourself in a tough situation like that and you just kind of wing it and say, I'll deal with it later, those few minutes on the wedding day, those few seconds on the wedding day when you could have gotten your settings dialed in and packed that one light from home, that one window from home, clean, consistent, perfect light, perfect exposures, perfect color, it's costing you hours on the back end pushing sliders around in Lightroom. If you have spent way too much time this year already pushing sliders around in Lightroom trying to fix bad light that happened at the time that you took it, what would you do if you got all of those hours back? How could you market your business? How could you grow your business? How could you reach out to your ideal clients? How could you actually get back to spending time with your family and enjoying life again? I want you to think about this December and what you want that to look like, because it's coming up quickly. Do you want to be editing until your eyeballs are going to pop out because the lighting is just never quite right? Because bad mixed light can never be fixed after the fact in Lightroom. It can be made to look slightly better, but it's never truly fixed. Or do you want to have images that are correct in camera that you can go through and sync really quickly because they all have the same exposure, and that you can get that edited and back out the door so you can be watching Elf and drinking cocoa and spending time with your family? The decisions we make now affect the Decembers that are coming. And so if you know that you need help with your flash, we would love to help you with that. Our J&M Lighting course is open for enrollment. It's 6 weeks of modules where we walk through beginning to end exactly how you light a wedding day. But the principles that we're teaching equally apply if you are a portrait photographer. So one of the biggest questions we always get is, does this apply to portrait photographers? Would a portrait photographer be able to take the course? And the answer is absolutely. Every round we've had portrait photographers who come through the course who have no desire to ever shoot a wedding. It's 6 weeks of modules of all video content. That's over 50 modules where you actually see us just like this, working through these settings. You see us on location. You see diagrams and resulting photos. You see exactly what we're doing. It's lifetime access to those modules, but even more than that, beyond that sort of 6 weeks boot camp of going through and learning your flash, which by the way, you can watch in the 6 weeks that are coming up or at any point in the future if it works better for you in December or January or next year. But the biggest thing that's different about this course is not only does it get you those modules, we are not going to send you out and go, okay, you're on your own, go watch the videos, you'll figure it out. With something as technical and as kind of complicated to wrap your head around as Flash. And so we want you to know that we are in it with you. So besides the modules, the other biggest thing that it gets you is 12 entire months, a full year of coaching with Justin and I in our exclusive Facebook group. Every single week we have our students hop in and say, hey, I have this wedding coming up this weekend. How would you light it? Let me show you like the space. Tell me what you would do. Justin Moran's in your head telling you exactly how to go in and light that wedding coming up that weekend. Or hey, my flashes aren't syncing. I'm having a ton of trouble with them. Will you hop on with me in a Facebook Live and we'll sort it out together? Or hey, I'm thinking about buying this new gear, but I don't want to make a mistake in what I'm buying. Will you tell me which one you would choose of these options? And so any of your flash questions that you have for the next solid year, we are walking through this with you. We consider you learning flash not just a 6-week boot camp of jumping in the deep end, but this 12-month journey. And so I want you to think about, what would you pay monthly to have access to us as your personal coaches as you walk through the entire next year of your business and into every wedding you're going to be facing. And so the course is open for enrollment, like I said, but only for the next 2 days. We have put together a very special bonus for anybody who watched this video, where you are not only going to get $350 off the course. It's normally a $1,200 course. We've brought it down to $857. Or if you don't want to do it all at once to save the most, you'd rather spread it out, you can do the payment plan, which is only 12 payments of $97. So I want you to think about $97 that not only gets you the course, it not only gets you lifetime access, but would you pay that amount each month to be able to say, any tough lighting situation I find myself in, I have access to a personal coach who will walk through it with me. And so we can spread it out for the year. In either case, it gets you signed up for the course, it gets you instant access to the modules, and you can jump in and hit the ground running with us when we kick off the course officially next week. Beyond that, it's also going to get you some really fun bonuses that we've put together. So besides the $350 you can save or the payment plan you want to jump in that way, either one is fine. You're also going to get some really fun bonuses. That 12 months of coaching with us has a value of $1,950. We have our lighting guide for $259. We have our Legacy Monochrome 28 signature black and white Lightroom presets, our Legacies collections and our Legends collections, that is also a $250 value, our Shooting in Harsh Light modules, our Bad Light bundle, an entire 7th bonus week of training on shooting in the toughest receptions, and our Better Faster Editing Guide that's going to show you, will save you hours on the front end getting the images right in camera, and also will show you behind the scenes exactly how we edit our images in Lightroom using the histogram, which every person who's gone through this course has told us has saved them hours off their workflow. And so if that sounds good to you, if you are ready to jump in, we would love to have you head over to jmlightingcourse.com. You can sign up for either the one-time payment to save the most, nearly $350 off, or you can get started today for just the first payment of $97, and then the rest of the 12 months, 11 more payments after that. Either one is totally fine. It'll get you all of those bonuses worth over $3,000. It's going to get you that year of coaching and access to us, the 6 weeks of modules, and lifetime access. We would love to have you in this course with us, because you can go through this alone, trying to figure it out, reading your Flash manual by yourself. You can look up YouTube videos and try to piecemeal together a Flash system, or you can have someone who spent 10 plus years figuring this out, come alongside you and say, hey, let me show you an easier way. And that's the heart for this course, because what we believe is that as photographers, this moment is gone, and this moment is gone, and that moment is gone. But photography steps in and says, yeah, but not this moment. This moment stays. That's what we get to do with our work. That's what we get to do with our craft. We just want to come alongside you and show you an easier way to tell those stories for your couples for the generations to come. Because none of us was born knowing this, and we will never make you feel small or silly for what you weren't born knowing. We would love to come along and help you, so head over to jmlightingcourse.com and we will see you inside the course.